Sambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Hari Om. Salutations to all. So yesterday we saw about how the attention must be withdrawn from the pot, that is the body, from the water, that is the subtle body, mind and intellect, and from the reflection, which is the ego or the jiva. And the attention must be turned towards the sun. Now, when we remove that, when we withdraw the attention from the pot, from the water, from the reflection, the final state is not an absence. The final state is the existence of the sun. Because it is the sun that is reflecting in the water. So the very existence actually of the reflection proves that there is the sun, which is there, because reflection by itself has no existence otherwise. In the same way, this jiva itself, this small I itself, is the proof that there is a big I, and that the ultimate state is not a blank. So now, what is that big I? What is the nature of that I? That was explained. It is the drashta, it is the witness in all of us, experiencer actually in all of us. But it's only conditioned by the equipment. So we say it is the small I. But otherwise it is the witness, and it is that which is beyond the witness also. And we saw Sat Chit Anand, how each verse explained one aspect specifically also. And it was said there is no other path for liberation except realizing this truth. Now that was in 222. Now we move ahead. The same thought is carried forward ahead about the self-knowledge. Brahma bhinnatva vijnanam bhava mokshasya karanam yena dvitiyam anandam brahma sampadyate budhaihi. So he says here that Brahma abhinnatva vijnanam, the experiential knowledge of oneness with Brahman. Abhinna meaning no difference. The oneness of the jiva, the self, with Brahman. Jiva Brahma Aikya. So that is abhinnatva. Brahma abhinnatva vijnanam. And this is not knowledge alone, jnanam. Knowledge can be intellectual knowledge. Vijnanam is intuitive experience. Brahma abhinnatva vijnanam bhava mokshasya karanam is the solution or the cause for freedom from this sense of incompleteness and the constant desire to become something. So again, remembering the question, the experience of blank or nothingness is not going to bring fulfillment in our heart, because we seek fulfillment. We don't seek absence. We seek to be happy. We want to be happy at all times. So permanent happiness, absolute peace is what we seek. We don't seek just the absence. And peace is not an absence of agitation. It is a positive state. How to experience that? The root cause of sorrow must go. What is the root cause of sorrow? Ignorance. That I don't know who am I, and hence I think I am the BMI, and then I see myself as limited and the world as different. This is the whole process. So how to remove that ignorance? Only through the knowledge. So Brahma abhinnatva vijnanam Bhava mokshasya karanam. That is the only way to get freedom. See, the beauty of this is the principle is given. What is the principle? Ignorance can be removed by knowledge. Now, there are different methods to purify the mind. One can purify the mind in whichever method. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga, any method. Any other religion also tells any other method, if at all, apart from these four, that also will work. To purify the mind, there are many paths. But having purified the mind, the path to realization is only one. And that is through knowledge. It does not say only through Gita, only through this particular book, or only through Veda. No. Principle is important. That's the beauty of our culture. So there is no fanaticism. This is the only path. This is the only path, meaning this is a principle that if you destroy ignorance, then the knowledge goes. Then if you destroy the ignorance through knowledge, then freedom from cycle of birth and death. One may gain knowledge through contemplation, one may gain knowledge through complete surrender. They appear to be two, but they are actually only one. When complete surrender of ego happens, knowledge of the truth rises. That's the principle. And how will it come? Through steady contemplation with a pure mind. How to get a pure mind? All the paths are given for that. Any method one can follow, one will come to the state of purity of mind. From there it is straight, one path, contemplation. If one says, no, Bhagavan, I believe in bhakti, then Bhagavan will give that knowledge. But liberation is not possible without knowledge. Hence he says, Bhava mokshasya karanam. Yena advitiyam anandam. And what is the state that is experienced when the moksha is attained? Because many people ask that. Okay, if I get moksha, then what? First and foremost, that question, then what, itself will disappear. What next will disappear? Because the entity which is feeling limited, which is feeling incomplete, which needs something to become complete, that entity is dissolved. When the dreamer has woken up from the dream, the question that what next in the dream doesn't even apply, because the dream has ended. The person has woken up. So what after moksha? Advitiyam anandam. One experiences non-dual bliss. Now again, it's a limitation of language to say that one experiences non-dual bliss. So you may ask, who is that one? A limitation of language. Happiness alone is the ultimate state. That's what it means. Non-dual bliss. Advitiyam anandam. Yesterday we saw about it. Every other pleasure is with duality. There is an enjoyer, there is an enjoyed, and then there is a connection between both. Then the enjoyment rises. And in that, all the three are changing. Enjoyer is also changing, enjoyed is also changing, the enjoyment also changes. First, Rasgulla I eat. I am the enjoyer, Rasgulla is the enjoyed. The enjoyment is, so beautiful, so amazing, so wonderful, so tasty, so sweet. Second, third, fourth, it keeps decreasing. So all the three are changing. Enjoyer, enjoyed, enjoyment, all are changing. And that is the reason why it doesn't bring fulfillment. Because our demand is for changeless happiness and all the three factors are changing. Hence it is here. The final state is not a blank, not an absence, not a zero. The final state is Advitiyam Anandam. Brahma Sampadyate Budhaihi. And that is the nature of Brahman. And the wise men experience this state. They don't experience a blank. Why would one want to drop everything for a state of blank? It doesn't bring fulfillment. It doesn't bring joy. At the maximum, what one can say, all that which is finite, when it is negated, that which is infinite reveals. And that is the Advitiyam Ananda. Because in infinite, there is no cause for sorrow. The Upanishad say, Bhuma vai sukham, that which is infinite alone is true happiness. Rest is all alpe sukham na asti. In the limited, there is no sukha. So this is the answer to that question, that the ultimate state is not a state of blank, it is Advitiyam Anandam, and it is the only way to get out of cycle of birth and death. Nothingness is not a way to get out of cycle of birth and death. Because it will not remove the root cause of sorrow. Simple. So that's the principle. Again, it continues ahead. See why this is being taken for such a long time, so many verses, is because if you remember, at the time of Shankaracharya ji, Buddhism was prevalent, rampant everywhere. And it was not even the original Buddhism. It was the decadent Buddhism. So whatever Buddha stood for, a lot of that had already been dropped. Buddha stood for desirelessness. There are so many who were wanting fulfillment of desires through the Buddhist methods of chanting. Even today that is rampant. It is growing, Buddhist chanting. Not to criticize, but just to be aware that what is the founder's vision and how it goes down. So the culture declines, like even our Hindu culture went through decline. Vedic masters and Vedic knowledge was in a certain way, and then it went through decline. So great masters came like Shankaracharya ji to revive. So at the time of Shankaracharya ji, Hinduism is already declined. There is exploitation of the caste system, there is animal sacrifice, there is sectarianism, there is blind ritualism, exploitation of the people in the name of ritualism. All that is there, the decadence, the status of women in society declined. So all these are the decline of the Hindu culture. So Buddhism came out as an answer to that with the path, middle path, compassion, non-violence, those things, Buddhism and Jainism. Now, after Buddha went, Buddhism also declined. So during Shankaracharya's time, there is neither the Hindu culture is in its proper intellectual purity, nor the Buddhism. And so many Hindus have already gone into Buddhism, and there also the decadence has happened. And for many people, they did not understand what is the ultimate state. So they considered it as a shunya. So he comes very hard on this nihilism, shunyavada. So that's why this many verses. That ultimate state is not that, because it will not remove the root cause of sorrow. Maybe there are people who misunderstood what Buddha said. Because if he is an enlightened being, then the root cause of sorrow would have gone. How? Through the knowledge. Because Buddha literally means one who is awakened through knowledge. So he is called Gautama the Buddha, the enlightened being. Buddha is a title. There are many Buddhas before him also. So the idea here is this, that nihilism or the Shunyavada is not directly condemned, but the answer to that question of the student is that it is not the ultimate state. Brahman is the ultimate state. What is the nature of that Brahman? And that's the only method of realization. So that thought is very strongly recommended by Shankaracharya. So now see 224. Brahma bhutastu samsrityai vidvan navartate punaha vijnata vyamata samyak brahma bhinnatvam atmanaha. So he says here, Brahma bhutastu samsrityai. One who has become Brahman. This expression Brahma bhuta comes many times in the Gita also. Brahma bhutam akalmasham. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kamshati. One who has become Brahman. Become Brahman meaning who has rediscovered that I am Brahman. I was, I am, I will be only Brahman. That Brahman, Brahma Bhutastu Samsrityai Vidwan na avartate. That Vidwan, that realized person, Samsrityai, in this cycle of samsara, na puna avartate, does not come back. So what is moksha? See, in our culture, moksha is not just freedom from cycle of birth and death. That is the consequence. Moksha was described in the earlier verse when it was said Advitiyam Anandam. The experience of Advitiyam Anandam, non-dual bliss, results in the dissolution of the individuality, results in dissolution of all sense of incompleteness, desires, everything. So it is said, as though all the desires of that person are fulfilled. So ashnute sarvan kaman saha. Nothing remains unfulfilled, gaining which there is nothing more to be gained. That is the ultimate state, which makes that person, again limitation of language, which makes that person fulfilled, that no more is any desire. All the existing karmas also burn away. All the accumulated sanchit karma, etc. burns away. So there is no cause for future body. So samsrityai na avartate punah. This wise person doesn't come back into this world of Maya and with cycle of birth and death, because when the body dies of that person is already dead to the body identification, but some prarabdha body continues. When the body drops, there is no individuality, subtle body is not there, and the causal body, which is vasanas and ignorance, that also is gone. So there is no fuel for that person to again come back. We are coming back again and again into the world because there is a sense of incompleteness, ignorance, incompleteness, false identification, ignorance, false identification, incompleteness, vasanas, desire, thoughts, actions, results. This is a cause for our cycle of birth and death. This cause is completely removed in this master by experiencing that ultimate state. So what is the result? Na samsritai avartate punah. That person will not come back into this world again. You may ask which world? For that person the world does not exist. But for you and I, at the moment the world exists, so we say this world. For that person, though, while realizing the world is already gone, the duality is gone. One sees everything only as Brahman. So that is what is their experience. Brahma bhutastu samsrityai vidvan na avartate punah. Hence he says vijñātavyam atah samyak. Hence this Brahman should be known very clearly, not as some blank. This Brahman should be known clearly is what he says. Vijñātavyam atah samyak. Samyak means very well. Brahma abhinatva atmanah. Abhinatvam atmanah. The oneness of Brahman with Atman. The individual self in me is the self everywhere. There is only one Brahman, and that alone pervades the whole universe. That has to be known very clearly, is the reply of the teacher. Because remember one more question the student had asked earlier. The student said, Samsara davanala, I am getting scorched in this forest fire. Davanala is forest fire. Durvara samsara davagni taptam. I am getting scorched in this fire of samsar. Dodhuyamanam duradrishtavatehi. I am being tossed around by these fierce winds. That was a metaphor, meaning there is sorrow in this samsar and one is facing so much of misery. And even if it is not the disappointment of fulfillment of desire, unfulfillment of desire. The very sense of jiva, finitude itself, is misery. So this question was there before also. How do I come out of it? I have come to take your refuge, O Master. Bhitam prapannam. I am scared. I have come to take refuge. Paripahi mrityo. Please free me from this cycle of birth and death. Sharanya manya gadam na jane. And I don't know any other refuge. Now this the student has already asked before. So we should never forget the questions of the student, because this is a long text. One may forget what the student has asked. Then one wonders why is the teacher saying so many things. Because the teacher is remembering and connecting. That's why he says that state which you want, freedom from cycle of birth and death, will come through this Brahma Bhutastu. When you become Brahman, then you will be free from cycle of birth and death. Till then, the cycle goes on. Why? Because the cause is not eliminated. Ignorance is there. So now, having said that, Samyak Brahma Abhinnatvam Atmanaha. Realize the oneness of this Atma with Brahman. So now we should understand this expression. Brahma Abhinnatvam Atmanaha. See, many times we feel this Atma merges with Paramatma. That is called moksha. This Atma cannot merge with Paramatma because there are not two. And there is no separation of Atma from Paramatma. Because Paramatma does not have parts. The supreme infinite reality, Brahman, does not have any parts. How can anything get separated from it? So there is no question of Atma becoming one with Paramatma, that right now Atma has become separated. The notion of separation is the ignorance. That I am separate from Brahman is the ignorance. If the wave thinks I am separate from the water, the ocean, the separation of the wave from the ocean is not a fact. It is an illusion because of a notion of separation, not real separation. Jiva and Brahma, they have not become separated. Like the wave cannot be separate from water. The wave is a part of the ocean and water is its nature. It exists in the water, in the wave, in the ocean, sorry. There is no separation. But if the wave thinks I am separate, I am this one small little wave, this ocean is separate from me, that separation is a notional separation. That's not a real separation. That notional separation has to be destroyed by clarity. When that clarity dawns, the clarity is not that now my Atma has become one with Paramatma. As Vedantic students, we should understand Atma is always one with Paramatma. There is no difference. The waker and the dreamer are always one. The waker has not separated and the dreamer is not produced out of that. The waker only is appearing as the dreamer. So when the dream ends, one may say dreamer merged into the waker. But there is no merging happening. It's the notion of difference which is destroyed when the dreamer wakes up. The dreamer, because of the identification with the dream, was thinking of itself as separate from the waker. Upon waking up, that is destroyed. That is what this is. Brahma Abhinatvam Atmanaha. Brahma is not different from this Atma at all times, not only at the time of realization. At the time of realization, the notion of separation destroyed. So that's what it is. Ato Vijnatavyam Atah Samyak Brahma Abhinnatvam Atmanaha. That this one's identity with Brahman, one should strive to realize, meaning strive to get out of this notion that I am separate, world is separate, God is separate. This Triputi, this is called. This duality has to be removed. How? Through this, gaining this knowledge clearly. So now he moves ahead. He doesn't have a meter. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Vishuddham Param Swatah Siddham Nityanandaikarasam Pratyaga Abhinnam Nirantaram Jayati. So what he says, what is the nature of that Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Like what we saw earlier, the example of the pot, the water and the reflection, in that we saw the nature of that Atma is Sat, the nature of the Drashta, which is the Atma, is Sat, Chit, Anand. Nature of Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, same. Sat is the pure existence, which is Satyam here. Chit is pure knowledge, so Jnanam. And Ananda is connected to Anantam. Why? Because, as we said earlier, in that which is infinite alone, there is true bliss. In the limited, there is no bliss. So, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. This is a very famous mantra from Taittiriya Upanishad also. Second Valli, Brahmananda Valli. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman So Oshnute Sarvan Kamaan Saha Brahmana Vipaschiteti. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam. One who realizes in the cave of one's own heart, meaning, so yesterday I was reading Swami Ranganathananji, very nice commentary on Ramakrishna. He is from Ramakrishna Mission. He was a contemporary of Gurudev. He took Samadhi now. Gurudev revered him a lot. Both of them were contemporaries, respected each other, did a lot of work together for our country and culture. So his commentary, Ranganathananji said very nicely that like a cave, is made up of some rock. In a mountain, there is a cave. So there is a rock, and that cave has darkness inside. Same way, he says, the cave in our heart is as though made up of wrong notions. And these wrong notions is what is harboring this ignorance. So how to remove the darkness in that cave? By bringing the light of knowledge inside. So in the physical cave, the structure, you just bring the light inside. The rock will remain as it is. But in our case here, in the spiritual life, when this knowledge is brought in, the darkness of ignorance, which is surrounded also by the wrong notions, that is all blasted. So a person realizes that, oh, my nature is that pure consciousness. A wrong notion that I had, that I am separate from Brahman and this world, all that goes. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that has to be realized in our heart. And this ignorance and the consequent delusion and all the false notion, they have to be removed. What is the nature of that Brahman? See, earlier nature of Atma was said, this is the nature of Brahman. Just to say both are one. Brahma Abhinatva was said, no, last verse. That's why. Vishuddham, it is purest. Meaning it does not have the taint of ignorance, it does not have the taint of vasanas, it does not have the taint of sattva, rajas and tamas. Vishuddham, purest. Param, supreme. There is nothing greater than this Brahman. Brahman alone exists. And Swatah Siddham, it is self-existent. It does not need any other proof. Nor does it need any other cause. That who created this Brahman, it is self-existent. Swatah Siddham. Nityananda Ekarasam. It is of the nature of homogeneous bliss. Permanent bliss, Nityananda, and Ekarasa. The pleasure that we get in the world is not Ekarasa. It goes through many rasas. There are navarasas also. This is ekarasa. Ekarasa means nothing other than it. So nitya ananda ekarasam. Pratyag, it is within as the self, aham, aham, aham. It is experienced by us. It is pratyag. It is not outside. Pratyag. Abhinnam, without any difference. Nirantaram, it is all the time present. Unbroken, constant awareness it is. Jayati, it is ever victorious. Ever victorious meaning it is never affected by anything that is happening through the BMI. The Panchakoshas cannot touch it. Whatever will be the state of the Panchakosha, because it is all a superimposition. Just like the snake can never affect the rope, the mirage water can never wet the sand. It is always untouched, unaffected. In the same way, Jayati, it is ever victorious. Nothing happens to it. At the same time, one who does sadhana will also become ever victorious. One who realizes Brahman becomes ever victorious. Matters, vestures, the Panchakosha doesn't affect that person anymore. So that is why, so this is the nature of that Brahman. So when it was said Brahma abhinnatvam atmanaha, realize the oneness with that Brahman, what are the qualities of that Brahman also pointed out. What are the qualities of Atman also pointed out. This is to again and again assert that it is the ultimate state is not a zero, it is not a blank, it is a supreme state, it is that which is Nitya Ananda Ekarasa. All those pointers again, these are all pointers. And also the scriptural validity is there. The Upanishadic proof is there. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So if something is proved by the scripture, means it is time-tested wisdom. It is proved by logic. That also we saw. Why? Because the knower knows the absence of everything. So it is proved by scripture, it is proved by logic, and it is our anubhuti. Our anubhuti is not that I am an absence. Our anubhuti is aham, aham, aham. Constant presence is my anubhuti. So how can the ultimate state be a zero? It is not possible. You know, when we went to meet Dalai Lama, when we were students in Vedant course, so we went to Siddhabari and we were, a part of the training is visit Siddhabari and Uttarkashi and we study there. So when we went to Siddhabari, then we took an appointment and went and met the Dalai Lama. And one of the questions our teacher asked the Dalai Lama was this, that when we say that in Buddhism the ultimate state is Shunya, what do you really mean? So there the Dalai Lama said that when we say it is Shunya, it means the absence of all this. So then the question was, is it an absence or is it a presence? The Dalai Lama there, he said it is a presence, it is not a state of zero. It only means the absence of all that which is finite, and it is a state of infinity. Now that it is a state of infinity is what Dalai Lama expressed. But when we see that in the world, many people who follow this Shunyavad, they don't explain it in that way. So if the understanding is clear that the ultimate state is not a blank, ultimate state is a positive presence, it is infinite reality, then these are the pointers of that, and this is what one will experience. Because if you remember yesterday we said we should know what is moksha, what is the means, what is bandhan, everything, sadhanas, all those things should be very clear to us. This is the ultimate state, because that's what we will discover. What the mind sets as the goal, that is what it will discover. And Again, limitation of language to say mind sets a goal, because here we are transcending the mind. But the clarity has to be there that ultimate state is not a blank. So all this explanation is for that. Now, having said this much, as an answer to the question, the teacher now goes ahead to say that not only is that state of Brahman is realized at that time when a person awakens, but actually this entire universe is only an appearance of Brahman, even right now. See this. This is the next section. The next section is only about all pervasiveness of Brahman. That Brahman is in this whole universe, it's an appearance only of Brahman. There's nothing else except Brahman. Again, no meter in this. Sadidam paramadvaitam swasmad anyasya vastuno abhavat nahyanyadasti kinchit samyak paramartha tattva bodha dashayam. So he says sad idam. There is only this pure sat. Idam means this. So whatever we can call as this, whichever we can objectify, this, which is separate from aham. Aham idam. Aham is I, idam is this. So apart from this real I, whatever else is pointed out is this. So now what he says here, sat idam. This all which is idam is actually sat alone. Param advaitam. That alone is real, which is supreme non-dual. Swasmad anyasta. Swasmad anyasya vastuno abhavat. Apart from this swasmad, anyasya vastunaha abhavat. There is no other. Nahi anyadasti kinchid. Even little bit, there is nothing apart from Brahman. Meaning every single thing here is Brahman. Samyak paramartha tattva bodha dashayam. In that dasha, the state of what? Paramartha tattva bodha, the realization of that supreme truth. Samyak, in the proper firm abidance in the realization of the supreme truth. What is the experience of the Mahatma? That there is only Sat, and this Sat alone is this whole universe. Not even a little bit is apart from this Sat. Again, Upanishads say this, no? Isha Vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. It is the one truth which pervades everything in this universe. Not even a bit is apart from that. The entire ocean is nothing but water. All the waves, foam, lather, bubble, everything is nothing but water. So Isha Vasyam, meaning the world, our vision must be that this world is pervaded by the Lord. Meaning this is the sadhana that is ought to be done. The highest level of sadhana is to see oneness. Isha Vasyam. It is like Kartavyam. This should be done. In the same way, a seeker must pervade this whole universe in his mind with this thought that there is only one Brahman appearing as this whole universe. So from the state of where one says that there is no God, there is no Brahman, and hence where one says that I am separate from this world and I am not sure about God, from that, through the proper understanding and clarity, one comes to this state where one says that apart from Brahman, there is nothing else. Because if anything else exists apart from Brahman, Brahman and that thing both will become finite, they will limit each other, both will perish. So there is actually nothing else apart from Brahman. Like everything in the movie, what we see on the screen is nothing but screen only. Each and every part of that movie is the screen on which the whole thing is projected. Again, there the limitation is projection is coming from outside. Screen is only the substratum, but So the better example is the dream and the waking. Every single aspect of the dream, all the dream characters, all the things in the dream are nothing but the waker alone. So in the same way, Brahman alone exists. So if the student asked about Shunya, he says, no, not only Shunya is not the highest state, Brahman is the highest state, Brahman alone pervades everywhere. Because that's another point to understand. That which is the ultimate has to be there even now. We can't say right now it is Shunya, but we can say right now it is Brahman. Why? Because Brahman is the substratum. We cannot say the ultimate reality is absence and only when you withdraw from everything, then you will realize that. That may be the methodology to realize, but it has to exist even now. Otherwise, it's not infinite. So when we say Brahman alone exists, that is the truth. Because it exists even right now. When we are seeing the world itself, it is actually an appearance of Brahman. There is nothing apart from Brahman. As we are seeing the wave, it is water alone that we are seeing. Nothing other than water. We can't say that the wave has to realize. The methodology for the wave can be, yes, the attention has to go from the wave to the water, then the wave realizes that I am water. But at all times, water alone was. In the same way, this entire world of names and forms that we see is Brahman alone. Can we say that about that absolute state? No. And nothingness, I can't say right now this is nothing because I'm experiencing it. So then what is Vedanta saying? Yes, you are experiencing it. That means it is there, but only the perception is wrong. The perception is that this is real and this is the name and form, but that is not true. It is an appearance of Brahman alone. Like the rope is the reality at all times. It is appearing as the snake. If I see snake and think it is real, that is wrong. But if I see the snake and say, no, it does not exist, that is also wrong. Snake exists in this relative reality, but it is actually an appearance of the rope. So we can say rope alone is pervading the entire snake at all times. Hence, that is the ultimate state, which was, is, will be, and which is not dependent on a process to realize. This is only in that state it is realized, because nothingness is like that. It can be realized only in that state when everything is withdrawn. But Brahman is not like that. Right now also it is only Brahman. So I can see the whole universe and have the bhav that Brahman alone exists. And I can relate with it in that way. I cannot say the whole world is non-existent. Then how will I relate? At this level of the BMI, I cannot say it is non-existent. But I can say at the level of BMI that yes, this is Brahman. That becomes my sadhana. So that is explained ahead. Yadidam sakalam vishwam nana rupam pratitam ajnanat tat sarvam brahmaiva pratyasta shesha bhavana dosham. Yad idam, whatever is this, sakalam vishwam, this whole universe, nana rupam pratitam, is all appearing to us as different in different forms and names, is because of what? Ignorance, ajnana. Tat sarvam brahma eva. All that is Brahman alone. Pratyasta ashesha bhavana dosham. And what is the nature of that Brahman? The nature of that Brahman is, it is free from all the limitations of thought. Bhavana here is a thought, not feeling. One can say both also, doesn't matter. Bhavana. Ashesha bhavana dosham pratyasta. No limitation of thoughts at all. So, that's the truth. That there is one Brahman which is appearing as the many. Why it is appearing as many? Because of, one can give a reason, it's the power of Maya. Brahman using Maya becomes Ishvara, creates the whole universe. So the creature is there creation is there, creator is there. This duality which is there is actually one Brahman appearing as all the three. So the entire universe of names and forms, Sakalam Vishwam Nana Rupam Pratitam, is only because of ignorance. When I don't know that this is Brahman, then this ignorance causes all the wrong notions and the consequent sorrows. So what has to be realized? When we live in the world, we can live in the world with these two attitudes. Either I can say that this entire world of names and forms is an illusion, so I stop being affected by it, and then I inquire, if this is an illusion, what is the truth? Which will ultimately lead me to the realization that Brahman alone exists. That is the second method. That when I am convinced that Brahman alone exists, even from the logic standpoint, if you see, effects are nothing but cause in another form. If Brahman is the ultimate cause and the world is the effect, the whole world is an appearance of that Brahman only. So either I can say this is an illusion and negate the reality that I've given to it, or I can say this whole thing is Brahman and I am here serving that supreme Brahman. Everyone is divine. Either of these two attitudes, but both will lead to the same reality only. That Brahman alone is the reality, there is nothing else. Whichever path one takes. So, Tat Sarvam Brahma eva pratyastha ashesha bhavana dosham. Is a limitation of thought which makes us think I am separate, God is separate, world is separate. And then it further all the modifications and vikaras of the thought happen. So he says Brahman is that which is free from all these limitations, and that alone is appearing as all this. That is absolute truth. Now that is explained through an example. Mritkarya bhutopi mrido na bhinnaha kumbhosti sarvatra tu mrit swarupat na kumbharupam prithagasti kumbhaha kuto mrisha kalpita nama matraha. So this analogy is also derived from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. We will see how. Mrit karya bhutopi mridona bhinnaha. A pot is the effect of mud. Karya here means effect. Mrit karya is an effect of the mud. The pot is an effect of the cause, which is the mud. Hence, mridona bhinnaha. It is not separate from the mud. Mud pot is nothing but mud in another form. So it is not different from the mud. Kumbho asti. Mritkarya bhuto is the kumbha. Kumbha is the pot. Sarvatra tu mrit swarupat. Everywhere in the pot there is only mud. Top of the pot is mud, middle of the pot is mud, bottom is mud, sides are mud. The entire pot is made up of only mud. Na kumbha rupam prithagasti kumbha. Apart from the mud, there is no pot. If you remove the entire mud from it, there is no pot. Mud in another form is the pot. In the same way, he says, Kuto mrisha kalpita nama matram. Why are you calling it as a pot when actually it is a mud? It is only a name, nama matram. Mrisha, by itself, pot is false. Because the word pot is only a word to distinguish it. Actually, we are seeing only mud. We are seeing the mud, calling it as pot. If my understanding is this is actually mud and pot is only a name, then there is no problem. But what happens? We forget that this is mud and get attached to the name and the form. That is pot and the form of the pot. Then there is a problem. The entire universe is like the pot. Brahman is the mud. This pot is only appearing as, mud is appearing as the pot. Brahman is appearing as the world. Now, there are so many things in the world, so each one has a different name, there is no doubt. Every wave in the ocean, one can, if one wants to pinpoint, one will have to give a different name to each wave. But the fact is, every wave is only water. In the same way, the fact is that there is only one Brahman. Because if you remove the mud, there is no existence of that pot. It's only word, empty word. You see, the mud and pot example is very easy to understand. That if you remove the mud, there is no pot. The pot is only a word. But in the case of the individual, to understand this, why is it difficult? Because the mind is extroverted. So the mind has considered this name and form to be real and forgotten that there is the name and form exists because of the root cause, which is Brahman. Brahman is appearing as all this. If you remove Brahman, there is nothing. And how strange it is that Jiva, who is nothing but Brahman, goes around asking which God, what God, I don't believe in the existence of God. Are who are you? Forget existence of any other thing. You exist. From where did that I come? That is God. When Ramana Maharshi was asked, does God exist? He said, existence is God. Isness is God. I am, I exist. That is God. Every other thing is an appearance of this I am, aham. Just like the mud is what is appearing as pot and cup and pitcher and saucer and flower vase, whatever it is all mud. If I forget the mud, like it typically happens in the ornaments, that's why that example is given in Vedanta. When it is related to ornaments, sometimes one forgets that actually it is gold. One gets stuck in the beauty of the ornament, shape of the ornament, the karigari that is done on the ornament. So one says this is a necklace, this is a bangle, this is an anklet, this is a nose ring, this is an ear ring. And sometimes one forgets actually it is gold in all the other forms. In the same way it is with this. So the point is, even when I am seeing the name and the form, the sadhana that the seeker has to do is, this is Brahman in this form. Like Gurudev told the foreigner, no, when he asked the foreigner asked Gurudev when he saw the mango tree, because he had not seen the mango tree, that what is this? So Gurudev said, this is existence in the form of a mango tree. In that same way, the vision of the master is this entire thing is Brahman, appearing as all these names and forms. Names and forms are not real. Names and forms are only in the mind. And they are only given for a specific distinction. By themselves, they are not real. So this analogy is carried forward, is completed in the 229th verse. Kenapi mridbhinnataya swarupam ghatasya sandarchayitum na shakyate ato ghatakalpita eva mohat mrideva satyam paramartha bhutam. So that's, he says here, Kenapi mrid bhinnataya swarupam. No one can show that pot is different from this mud. Ghatasya sandarshaitum na shakyate. Ato ghata kalpita eva mohat. Hence the pot, the notion of pot separate from mud is only an imagination. What is the truth? Mrideva satyam. Mud alone is the truth. Paramartha bhutam. That is the reality of the mud. Of the pot, sorry. So this is what is said in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam mritika iti eva satyam. Mud alone is real. All the names and forms are only modifications and they are nothing but mud in another form. So they only exist in the mind and in the speech. Vacharambhanam is a hollow name. By itself, the form is made up of the cause, which is the mud. Same way, Brahman alone appears as names and forms, and whatever we see is only Brahman. So that we will stop here for today. If any questions are there, we will take up tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari